It's 4 o'clock in Radio Cairo. This is World of Info. We are here with you from 4 to 5. My name is Dr. Amr MABROUK. Dua Muhammad is at the controls. And today is in this beautiful afternoon in Cairo. We are going to talk about World of Books in World of Info. Stay tuned with us to 3 books which I believe are very interesting. And you know, as always, the rule of the game is, should we read it, skim it or toss it? And as usual, I'm very biased. All the 3 books deserve to be read, although sometimes they are difficult reading. Anyway, so after the break, we'll talk about the world of books. So it's World of Info and World of Books. And we are coming live from Studio 3. You can call us 257-89407. And yes, today are 3 interesting books. Well, I'm going to offer you these 3 books, and I think that now the times are times of reading. A lot of us are convinced that they should stay as much as possible at home. I came specially to offer these 3 books, which I believe are going to be very interesting. The first book is The Diaries of an Egyptian Princess, Niveen Abbas Halim. Wow, that's a nice book. And the other book is by Andy Miller, and it's called The Year of Reading Dangerously. So you can read dangerously. That's interesting. And the third book is by the one and only Omar Tahir, who always is so clever in prose writing and always can really find an interesting title to put on the first page of his book. And yes, the book that will everybody, when he looks at it, he will have to buy and read. And yes, it's called Who Taught Abdel Nasser Smoking? Wow, that's a strange question. So, yes, 3 interesting books, and I'm going to tell you the rule of the game again, which is, should we read it, skim it, or toss it? And today, these are must-read books. And dear listeners, try to weld on and come with me to understand why these books deserve the time, the effort, and the amusement. So, the World of Books coming live from Studio 3 in the World of Info in a beautiful afternoon in Cairo, which is in 2 hours' time, will be hopefully empty. People will be sitting at their homes and having some family time. So, stay with us. So, the World of Books coming live from Radio Cairo Studio 3, and my name is Dr. Amr MABROUK. Dua Muhammad is at the controls, and we are really going directly to the first book. The book is called Diaries of an Egyptian Princess by Niveen Abbas Halim. Princess Niveen Abbas Halim, or if you want to be very precise and very accurate according to the rules that were made by King Fuad and later on fortified by King Fuad, she has the title of a noble lady. She is not a title of a princess. She doesn't deserve it, simply because the law has changed. But otherwise, she's definitely a princess, and she's definitely a member of the royal family of Muhammad Ali, and she comes from this family from both sides, and her marriage also is to the royal family. So, who is Princess Niveen? Well, that's a very good question. I believe she had suffered actually to know who she is. And this book is really a tribute to Niveen, who has written this book or collected this book from her diaries. She was regularly writing these diaries, and continuously ever since she was a little child, she started writing diaries and keeping them. And from these diaries, she was able to get a mosaic picture of life and times in the family of Muhammad Ali. Well, I think that whenever you go to a bookshop and find this book, you'll be attracted immediately to the book, because it has a very beautiful picture of Princess Niveen. And she looks so beautiful. She's awesome. I mean, when you look at the picture and when you look at the details of her face, she looks exactly like the movie stars of the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I believe she has a great resemblance to Liz Taylor in her early years. And to put a cherry on top of the icing of the cake, she's more beautiful than Liz Taylor. And actually, she comes from this royal family. When we have to know, of course, that Muhammad Ali himself was an Albanian officer who was in the Ottoman Empire, Imperial Army. And when he came to Egypt, among the first force of Ottomans who came to fill in the vacuum that was left by the withdrawal of Napoleon Bonaparte army. Of course, without Napoleon, it was Mino, or Abdullah Mino, as he preferred to call himself after declared that he is a Muslim. So this is part of the continent of the division of forces of the brigade of the Ottoman forces, and he was an officer coming with them in the Albanian battalion with this brigade, and his name was Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali was a very bright, smart, intelligent. You can put as much as words of admiring the intelligence of this man, of his vision, and of his capabilities of understanding men, and how he is able to manipulate every situation to his own benefit. And to cut a long story short, because today is not the talk about Muhammad Ali, we have to give a mention of how he was able to ascend to power, how he was able to convince Amr MABROUK, who was the dean and the great popular manager and director and president of the syndicate of the honorables. And the honorables are one of the most important group of honored people, because they claim their descendancy directly to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. So Amr MABROUK was not only a scientist, he was not only a member of Al-Azhar and a very highly educated imam, but he also is a member of the Prophet's family. And of course, being a grandchild of the Prophet Muhammad gave him a status of respect and care and utmost importance from the whole of Egyptians. So when Amr MABROUK was convinced that Muhammad Ali can be the governor of Egypt, he applied for putting Muhammad Ali on the throne of Egypt as a governor, as an Ottoman governor, and the Sultan, being a bit weak, accepted that. And from now on, Muhammad Ali was able to become more independent of the Ottoman Empire, started his own army, and started his own state, and started to organize the state. And in order to build an empire, which was the aim of Muhammad Ali, you have to have an army, and in order to have a good army, you have to have doctors, engineers, architects, veterinarians, agriculture scientists, industries, and educated population. So this was the enlightenment of Egypt. This was the renaissance of Egypt. So Muhammad Ali intentionally, in order to build an empire, has founded the civil society of today of Egypt. He has founded the utmost upgrading the Egyptian middle class and the members of Al-Azhar University, of the intelligent young people, sending them to scholarships abroad, especially to France, educating them, and these people coming back with the enlightenment from France and building up the empire of Egypt. So Muhammad Ali, to tell and pass to the day of Niveen, has founded his own dynasty, and this family was all the members belonged to him. So if we want to talk about Niveen, who is the author of this book, we'll say that she is the daughter of Tawhida, and Tawhida is the daughter of Wahida, and Wahida is the daughter of another Tawhida, who is the daughter of Ismail Basha, the Khidev, who is of course the son of Ibrahim Basha, and Ibrahim is the son of Muhammad Ali. So Niveen is a granddaughter of Muhammad Ali himself. She, Tawhida, was married. The Tawhida the second was married briefly. She is the daughter of Ahmad Yakan Basha, and she married briefly a gentleman from a distant relative called Muhammad Asim. From him she had a son by the name of Ismail, and later on she had a divorce, and she got married to a prince of the royal family who is a second cousin of her, and the name of this prince is Abbas Halim. Abbas Halim is the son of Prince Ibrahim Halim, who is the son of Halim Basha, who's the son of Muhammad Ali directly, the youngest son of Muhammad Ali. So Abbas Halim is the father of Naveen and the father of the youngest of the children, Muhammad Ali, and of Olvia, the second daughter. So we're talking about members. Naveen having her, what we call, if you want to call it, the blue blood or the royal blood of Muhammad Ali from both sides, from the side of her mother and from the side directly from the side of her father. So when we look at this book, when we examine the diary, we are going to be stunned from a lot of things. First of all, the upbringing of this family, how they are a closed group or a closed community. They don't really mix and match and mingle with the rest of the society, because there are a lot of second cousins from their same age who they are mixing and matching with them, who have the privilege in enjoying their companies. And at the same time, most of them didn't receive a very high education. But Naveen had part of her education in my old school, that's the English school in Cairo, which makes us alumni of the same school. And she has given some prospect and picture of the English school in Cairo in the 40s. And also her mother, after she got a divorce from her father, Prince Abbas Halim, went to the United States of America, where she stayed there, and therefore Naveen went to the United States and had a semester or two in a college over there, where she had basic education in literature. And after that, when she came back to Egypt in the early 50s, she enrolled in the American University in Cairo to have a degree from the university. But things have just suddenly changed, and out of the blue there was the revolution, and the whole family of Muhammad Ali has become in different and difficult times and difficult troubles, especially when the fact that all their money and all their palaces and their belongings have been nationalized by a law that nobody can really challenge. So suddenly they have fallen off from grace. So when Naveen is discussing the first 20 years of her life, she's telling us about the times and the lives of the final years of the Muhammad Ali dynasty. And when she's telling us the whole story as we go and see it, and how they are amusing themselves and how they are living almost in a real La La Land. How Naveen was close to the age of Princess Fawzia, the dynamic, flamboyant, extremely attractive younger sister of Princess Fawzia. Princess Fawzia was a very intelligent and a very beautiful and charming lady. Princess Fawzia might be prettier than her, but definitely Princess Fawzia was the flamboyant character. She was the attractive character, and she was living in a palace that now belongs to the government, of course. And if people would like to see exactly where she was living in a palace that is beside now what is now the tower of Cairo, the Gojira Tower. And this small villa or small palace was overlooking the borders of the Gojira Club, because the Gojira Club was borders was reaching, or its walls was reaching what is now the police club, the police officers club. Part of the Gojira Club has been given to the police officers club, and then another part was given to the Gojira Youth Center, and then the Gojira Club. So these three lands originally were the Gojira Club, and so the Gojira Club used to reach the end or the land of Gojira Tower, where there is the Gojira Tower. If you want to understand the geography, there will be the Gojira Tower and the Anglo-American Hospital, and then the small palace of Princess Fawzia. Why are we talking about Princess Fawzia? Because she was a very good friend of Naveen, and Naveen would always go to this palace and villa, and in order to pass the jolly good time, the husband of Princess Fawzia used to have amuse himself by having filmography and cinema, because he was interested in cinema. So he was bringing a state-of-art camera with and filming short stories that he is almost doing its scenario and its story and its script, and the actors are simply members of the royal family and their friends. And where these stories and these films are taking place? In the palace of Fawzia, imagine. And after that they would just go and jump and get themselves inside the Gojira Club, where they are having jolly good time there. Wow, what a type of life. The most interesting thing about this book is that when you read it, you will get mesmerized by the amount of photographs in black and white that will definitely direct you to an age that we've been hearing about and reading about and seeing some of its glimpses of it on Facebook, but there is nothing compared to the amount of photograph that Princess Naveen Halim has put in her beautiful book. Pictures from all over the place, the family, the lives, the times of Muhammad Ali. And the only book that we can compare to this book, or reaching the status of this book, is the book by Prince Hassan Hassan. And who's Hassan Hassan? He's a distant cousin of, or a second cousin of, Princess Naveen Halim. And Princess Naveen Halim was a very good friend of Prince Hassan Hassan, and she was sometimes close, very close to his elder brother, who looked very handsome but was very flamboyant and nervous, and he even took part in 1948 war as a member of the Royal Egyptian Force, Air Force. But unfortunately, the prince has suffered from severe depression, which he has always had bouts of it, and unfortunately he committed suicide in the early 60s. This was the elder son of Hassan, and Hassan himself has written a beautiful picture, a beautiful book, which is going hand in hand with the book of Naveen, and he has published this book in 2001. And sorry enough to know that the book was published, was going to go to the bookstores just 2 weeks before that. Prince Hassan Hassan passed away from natural causes in 2001. So he has never seen his book on the market, and yet it's a very beautiful book which has a lot of photographs from this period in particular. And Prince Hassan Hassan, by the way, was also a student in the English school in Cairo, which after that, 40 or 50 years later, I became a student in it. So, wow. How is to find the type of the nostalgia that Princess Naveen is writing this book about, and how she's delivering a picture of the whole story of her father, who was one of the what we call the early socialists. He was not a communist, of course, but he was a socialist. And King Farouk was always mocking this idea, and he was not very much in good terms with Prince Abbas Halim, because he thought that Abbas Halim was very much socialist. He was involved with the labor workers and the labor forces and forming labor unions, which of course again was totally different than the ways the royal family were involved in the politics of everyday business. And Prince Abbas Halim was having an important title, which was that he was the chairman, or the chairman of the Royal Automobile Club in Cairo, which is of course up till now there. It has been a tradition that ever since the founding of the Royal Automobile Club in 1920, always until the revolution, there was a member of the royal family who was the chairman of the board. The first one, of course, was Prince Muhammad Ali Tawfiq, the crown prince after Fuad's death, and Farouk didn't have a son until 1952. Muhammad Ali Tawfiq was the crown prince, and he was the elder cousin of Farouk. Muhammad Ali Tawfiq was the son, of course, of Tawfiq, who is the son of Khedive Ismail. So when we talk about the royal family and about the lives and times of of Egyptian princess or Niveen Abbas Halim, we'll find that it's a real diary. And the diaries are connected. You know, when you write your diary, you write every day by bits and pieces. And then when you put these bits and pieces in a story, they become like a mosaic. Sometimes it's unfitting, sometimes it's unrelated. But the thread of thoughts are going on and on. The book was beautifully published and printed in 2009, and I found my copy in 2020, and I was very happy to read it. And I was also very happy that one of my dear friends was very much interested in the royal family, and his grandfather was the chamberlain during King Farouk time. I will not give him a mention of his name because he's now having an important job. Anyway, so this friend of mine met Princess Niveen and had an encounter with her. And I'm happy that Princess Niveen up till now is living and in a healthy condition, and she's living now in Alexandria after living in diaspora for some time in Switzerland. So how far is the story done? Well, I believe that I should leave this to you. It's full of nostalgia. It's full of aura of years that we heard about, but we never seen. And perhaps even our families or our grandparents or our parents never were close to this family, because this family was living almost in an isolated society. When you look at where Princess Niveen used to live and where she encountered her friends, you'll find that she was always living in a certain isolated social class. Even when she was in the English school in Cairo, most of the students were either British, belonging to the upper class of the British Army children, or they are the daughters of the royal family, or simply the daughters of famous pashas. So she hadn't really been involved with the population itself, although her father was always very much involved with the laborers and the workers. Niveen had a very interesting life. And sometimes when we are talking about the famous saying, that there was a famous saying called, "May you live interesting times." And to tell you the truth, when I search for that on the Google, you'll find that this is not actually a prayer for you as much as it's prayer against you. Because sometimes interesting times are not beautiful times. And that's what happened to Niveen. She lived very interesting times. She has seen the living in the saga or in Lala's land, when her eyes were opened to the chosen few, the eloquent, the elegant, the beautiful. And when you look at the photographs, the type of haute couture that they are wearing, the type of diamonds that they are showing, and the types of earrings, and how rich they were, and how very well bred they were living at. And when you see the royal weddings and you see all these photographs, and then suddenly you read about the 23rd of July, the 26th of July, and the 18th of June 1953, and then of course the demolishing of the kingdom, and that all these titles have been removed and all the wealth have been lost. So the fall from grace, these are called interesting times. Well, the lives and the times of Princess Niveen Abbas Halim in the Diaries of an Egyptian Princess is a good book to be read, beautiful photographs to be seen, and a lot of things to learn from the lives and times of Princess Niveen Abbas Halim. May we wish her good health and good times to enjoy. So after the break, we have more books to talk about, and we'll talk about another interesting book, The Year of Reading Dangerously. Can reading be dangerous? That's what we'll have to find out after the break. So we're still listening to World of Info, and this is World of Books. Today we are celebrating 3 books that I think a lot of us have time to read now, and why don't you get indulged in reading books? So this book is very fitting, and it's very difficult, and it's very interesting and very dull. Wow, that's a strange combination. Yes, it is a strange combination. It's by Andy Miller, and it's called The Year of Reading Dangerously. Of course, the title is very attractive, and I found myself, oh, that's an easy way I like this win-win situation. When you're going to read a book, it's going to give you an idea about 50 books. So you will decide for yourself, should you read these 50 books or not? That's a good saving of time. That's a good investment, and that's worthwhile experience. Well, to tell you the truth, that was a very big trap for me. I found this book in one of the famous bookshops in Cairo, and it's the easy thing, it was translated in Arabic. Well, I'm going to give you a secret. Yes, I am a graduate of the English school, and all my studies were in medicine, and everywhere was in English. And I speak acceptable English, but definitely I read Arabic much, much faster than read English. So if an Arabic book would take for me 1 day, an English book would take 3. So why not? I'm a fast reader by nature, but reading Arabic books will be much easier for me. Well, sometimes this is true, and sometimes this is a myth. And the myth is that the year of reading dangerously is the reading of this book. So what's the idea? Andy Miller is a writer. He has his own Facebook page. He is quite famous in his field, and his name is very attractive because there are a lot of Andy Millers who are famous who are not related to each other. Okay, this is the first thing. The second thing is that Andy Miller is living in the UK. He's British, and he is a reader in literature, and he has received a degree in literature, and he is very much interested in reading, and he found himself that he has been always, all through his life, especially in the period when he was working in the early, after graduation, working in a bookshop where he is recommending reading books for others. And he has discovered that he has been bragging about books, whether they are good or bad, but actually he didn't read them much. So he decided that he is going to have a list of these books that he finds that books are deserve to be read. So he has written down a list of 50 books to be finished in 50 weeks or 52 weeks in 1 year. And because the time limit of each book is 1 week, so this is considered to be the year of reading dangerously, because it's dangerous that he wants to finish these books or these 50 books in 1 year. Can you finish reading 50 books in 1 year? Yes, actually we can. If you don't watch a lot of TV and if you're not involved very much into the social media on your telephone. Yes, trust me, you can do that. And a friend of mine, who is now the current French ambassador here in Cairo, Monsieur Stéphane Romoté, is an avid reader, and he reads 2 books per week. How come? He reads 1 book in 5 days, and the second book he reads it during the weekend for 2 days. So reading between 1 to 2 books per week is possible if you drop from your life the social media, and if you drop from your life the TV. So Andy Miller decided that he is going to focus himself on reading the books that he has been always bragging of reading them all through his life, and that he is going to not to stop bragging and will tell us about these books. So this is a very good introduction. So now I was happy that Andy Miller has decided to summarize the 50 books. And when I read the resume of the 50 books, I mean the list, and I found that it's interesting. And to tell you the truth, I find myself that I have read only 3 or 4 of them. Well, it's different tastes. But you find out that he didn't really write to us about the plots of the stories or the plots of these books. He has written to us, and this is very clever, about the difficult times he has spent reading and convincing himself to continue reading each and every book of it. And what made this author worthwhile to be put on this list, and what made this book worthwhile, without going into details about this book, to be put in his chosen list, and his encounter with his friends and family during this dangerous year, and he's always talking about this important project. So the project goes that he will read these 50 books, and that he is going to write about this experience in a book. So this is what Andy Miller did, And this is what I've done. I decided I will find out in the end of the book, and I fought myself and fought the desire that I had continuously to really say, I will not read, I will not finish this book. But I finished the book, I read it, and I think the book deserves to be read because it's an interesting idea to read how people are perceiving books, how people choose their books, where do people read books, and how they can find the time to read books. And I will tell you the experience of some people saying, when you have, if you want to finish a 300 pages book every week, so you would have to stick to read at least 50 to 70 pages every day. And if you are a fast reader, you need 1 hour of reading. And you need to do this 1 hour reading not in bed, because once you are in bed, you'll find that you're going to become sleepy. So you have to have the book on your lap, and you're sitting in, as we see sometimes, in your car or in your office or in your whatever, or on a desk or whatever. You start reading the book or reading your 50 pages of today. So I didn't tell you the secret of how many books of this 50 list. I said that there are 3 or 4 of them, and I believe one of them really deserve to be read, which is of course Catch-22. This is interesting. And of course 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, a very interesting book to read. And of course there are books of Leo Tolstoy, the Anna Karenina and War and Peace. And of course another interesting book is Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. So books and how to live with them and how to read them in the dangerous reading year, or the year of reading dangerously, by Andy Miller. Another interesting book, and another book that you might be interested to read, just to find out how can you dedicate a year of reading to read and finish a project of 50 books, and what are you going to come up with these 50 books. So after the break we'll go to a lively book by Omar Tahir, who taught Abdel Nasser smoking of cigarettes. That's interesting. Interesting book as always. Omar Tahir is a very good writer. When he writes a book, he's always capable of linking all the paragraphs together in a continuous magical prose that you will find yourself reading the whole book from the start, and you finish it in exactly 2 or 3 hours. Yes, I'm not exaggerating. You can really finish it in 2 or 3 hours. You will find yourself unable to leave the book, because every sentence is delivering you to the sentence to follow. And this is what we call talent. So he's putting a lot of attention to the wordings, and I think he has been very much progressive in his way of writing, and going all through the way of the late Gojira Amr, when he was writing all these beautiful bullets of writing and prose. So Omar Tahir really does a lot of research when he does his work. He tries to combine this work together. And the nice thing about the book is the dedication which he has put in the final pages of the book. He's giving a mention to one of his friends who became a professor in one of the technical schools in Upper Egypt. And this friend is coming from a Christian family, and the Christians are like Muslims, especially the very religious ones. They don't like very much TV, and his mother didn't like TV. So this young boy, when he was young, the only entertainment that he was having was reading the newspapers and making a filing system to put all these newspapers together and informing his friends about these newspapers and what he has read in the different articles. And he's giving the credit to the man who nicknamed him as Peter, as the guy who introduced him to linking the dots. And of course, we understand that life is connecting dots, as Steve Jobs once said. And yes, the book is connecting dots and connecting sentences. And to put a beautiful title for the book, who taught Abdel Nasser smoking cigarette? Of course, no one but Abdel Hakim Amr, because he was his best friend, his brother in arms, and his great subordinate, and his sole provider, and he's the best friend that he has ever had. And at the same time, the man who was, whether we like it or not, responsible for the defeat of 1967. The political defeat was Nasser's side. The military defeat was Abdel Hakim Amr's fault. Abdel Hakim Amr paid this fault with his life. So it's a simple question, and I believe everybody who knows Nasser will definitely have to know that the greatest influence he had on his life was from Abdel Hakim Amr, and vice versa. So this might not be as attracting, but the name of the book is attracting. This will deserve to be read. And always the book is going to ask you a lot of questions. And I believe all these questions are interesting. I'm not going to tell you all about these questions, but I will always pick one of these questions. What will make King Farouk befriending an electrician and a hairdresser instead of befriending people from his status or from his caliber? Well, this question deserves to be answered, and I believe the answer was very simple: the overprotection of King Fuad. King Fuad had his crown prince in a very late age of his life. He was almost above 50 when King Farouk was born as a crown prince, and he decided that he will let him live in this golden cage, and will not allow him to get mixed and matched with the rest of the population. And so he had nobody to have a friendship with. And of course, the only people who were befriending him, or he found, or were simply the workers, or the humble workers at the palace. These included Italian electricians, or Italian hairdressers, and these people, including, for example, Polly, were very much illiterate almost. They didn't have a proper education, so they were having nothing to give to the crown prince, or to later on to the king. They didn't give him an education. And the king was, of course, undereducated when he was forced to come back from St. Harris after spending almost less than 1 year to become the king of Egypt. And when he came, he was almost 16 to 17 years old, almost ignorant. And to hide this ignorance, we add to it some arrogance. And he was known among the family, or the royal family, to be nicknamed Monsieur Jesse. Well, these were hard times. If you think that King Farouk has had the proper education, or the proper time to read and study, perhaps history would have changed. Perhaps if he had the good company of people who were very highly educating him, perhaps history would have changed. But we know, of course, that his father has put as one of his personal secretaries Hassan Husni, who was not the famous actor, but a man who has a PhD in history and who was a very cultured man. But unfortunately, when you read the memoirs of Hassan Husni, you will find out that he has written that he could hardly see the king in spite of the fact that he was his personal secretary. King Farouk didn't like very much the idea to have a tutor with the caliber of Hassan Husni, who knew about history, who has a PhD in history, who was a very cultured man. Of course, sitting or talking with this man will not be as amusing as sitting beside an electrician or a hairdresser, who are always full of jokes and dirty stories and things like that. Well, we always say that history is changed by the type of people that are living in it, and definitely the influence of people and the influence of education and culture on their education is very different. But yes, the book is very interesting. The book is full of amusement. The book is giving you answer for a lot of nice questions. But, of course, we come out with these books with more questions than answers. Always reading a book is going to add certain information to your mind. The more we read, the more we'll understand, and the more the time that we can really spend in meditation and understanding how life is going on around us. The world of books is full of books. Yes, this is a simple sentence, but sometimes it's not that true, because we love books, especially to put them on shelves, or we put them on our iPads or our mobiles or our Kindles, and sometimes we don't have enough time to read. Trying to summarize a book of hundreds of pages into 5 pages or 10 pages, as the offers that are there on the internet, is not enough. But knowing that you will have to read a lot in your lifetime, and probably you're not going to finish the library that you have invested in a lot of money, sometimes is frustrating. But my advice is, keep on reading. Reading 50 pages per day can really make your day. Actually, it can make your week, or sometimes can make your year. But definitely, it will make your life worthwhile living. So, today was the world of info, and today was a special episode about the world of books. My name is Dr. Amr MABROuk. Dua Muhammad was at the controls, and I promised that I would come next week, same time, same station, from Radio Cairo. And I hope next time I come, you will be living happily, healthy, and wise. Thank you very much. Stay tuned with Radio Cairo.